Hi, I'm Tessa, a veteran educator working in the field of special education.
And I'm Kim, mom of 2 autistic boys and a late diagnosed autistic person myself.
And welcome to Totally Over the Spectrum, where we dive into embracing autism through understanding and support.
Hi, and welcome to episode 39, where we're talking about whether or not autism has become a trend.
Okay. Please do subscribe, like and share your comments with us. We'd love to know your views on whether autism is trendy or not.
There you go. All right. So in the last episode, we talked about why I needed a diagnosis at the age of 50.
Okay.
And that led to some interesting discussions. There are people out there who think that right now autism is being glorified. So you've got this whole influx of people, generally on TikTok, because TikTok is TikTok, who are all of a sudden autistic, then proceed to talk about their autistic traits as sort of fun quirks and not as debilitating. And it's become really offensive for people.
Okay. I've done, we both do our research on it, and research dictates that autism diagnosis has increased dramatically, therefore suggesting a trend.
Okay, so I'm not a qualified professional who can diagnose. I can peer review and say, hey, I'm really good at pattern recognition and I see you have some autistic traits. What I'm terrible at is knowing when someone is lying. I want to believe people.
Yeah.
So I can't say if someone on TikTok is faking it. I don't know. And I'm not sure it's my place to do that anyway. So okay. I'm going to start with the first point that I think that there are always going to be people out there who are attention seeking.
Yes, I agree with you. It is.
And there are a small group of people who will use mental or physical illness to get that attention.
And I think nowadays with the platform of social media that we have, that has become far more viable and difficult to navigate and separate fact from fiction.
There are people out there who have faked having cancer. What? That takes some dedication. There are a lot of people on social media doing a lot of outrageous things to get the likes. Okay? I think the majority of the time, autistic people out there are sharing their experiences in fun and funny ways because other autistic people can relate to it and have a laugh.
Yeah. And to make it, I think to just take it, to show people that this is not as bad as it, is deemed to be, right? Autism, as we've spoken in the past, is not your level 3. Just because if you're level 3, a lot of people say that is autism versus your level 1. And we spoke about that when it comes to parenting and the differences. And I think that's where, the language and needs to change about what autism really is.
Autism is a spectrum, but it is not a straight line. So level 3 and level 1, we're all autistic. It looks different for everyone. So making a joke about, people saying, social situations and I couldn't do it kind of thing and making a joke about it, that's not to take away from the points that are actually debilitating. It's to give you a laugh because there is so much of it that is debilitating, right? So you're finding a laugh in what could be all doom and gloom and despair, right? Yes, a lot of us have anxiety and depression and burnout, and that is valid and that needs to be spoken about. That's part of the reason why we have this podcast. But it is still okay to make a joke about some of these things.
Yeah, it's to lighten the load, right?
Exactly.
And just to make, put that silver lining, over there. So, okay, what's next aspect?
I don't think autism is actually trendy outside of social media. I don't think out in the real world, people think of autism as a trend. Okay. I think some people may see autistic traits in themselves and self-diagnose in a sort of joking way. The way people say, oh, I had to check the door 3 times to make sure it was locked. Oh, that's just my OCD, but they don't have OCD.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think
using the terminology loosely is, because it's become far more aware to use the terminology autism. So I think it's just being used and inserted into day-to-day language now.
And then someone who actually has debilitating OCD says if you had it, you would not be joking about it.
Yeah.
And then the fighting begins.
Yes. So we don't want the fighting to begin, right? We really don't want to. We just want people to get along and be respectful, period.
I happen to like some of the videos that take a lighter approach to autistic traits because some days I need a smile in spite of things being hard.
Mm-hmm.
So if I see a video of someone dressed to go out to a social event, which they get a phone call and it gets changed to a different venue at the very last moment, then that cuts to the person in their PJs on the couch eating junk food with a nope, not doing that. That's funny to me because I can relate to that.
Yep.
So I don't think that's taking away from my son Peter being level 3 non-speaking. I think those are two different things. And I don't see why we can't have a laugh.
Well, that's well put, Kim, right? Because you're speaking from, experience over here and a person with autism. So you're the one that, I'm sorry, has, all the criteria in order to, make judgment on that call.
It's funny to me because it's true. It's funny because that one thing seems so small to other people and it can be impossible for an autistic person to get past. So yeah, that can be a genuine thing that is very challenging, but I can still laugh at it. I can experience it and relate to it and have felt it and have been there. And it's hard. And I can still have a good laugh at it.
And I think that comes from, having a good sense of who you are and having a good sense of humor too.
I mean, I could cry every day about how hard things are, but why would I want to live that way?
Well, some people choose to live that way, right? And we're not here to judge that, but we're just always here to open up that door and say, hey, there's always this.
I think the hard things need to be discussed. I think they need to be validated. And I think there is room for both things. Autism doesn't have to be all one thing or another thing.
Yeah, that's why it's a spectrum, right?
So another reason people think that autism is trendy is because you hear about it more often now.
Yeah, that was the number one, is increased awareness, right? And so from the media to social media platforms, the awareness is a lot more greater than it used to be in its infancy. So which is great, which is wonderful, I think, progression in the right direction. But there's still a lot more language around it that needs to change, and affirming language. But at least we're getting the awareness part out there.
Yeah, more people are getting diagnosed. People like me are getting late diagnosed. So yeah, you're going to see those numbers climb.
Yep.
We're not just diagnosing the 3-year-olds, right? Like you said, that the criteria for diagnosis has changed and evolved over time. We have a better understanding of autism. It used to be that you couldn't, for example, have autism and seizures. No, if you got both things, you don't have it.
Yep, the comorbidity as a piece is now really increasing, and providing people with autism a better tools and avenues in order to cope with not just the autism aspect of it, but the relating, diagnoses that come with it.
Sleep disorders, digestive issues, joint issues, intellectual disability, ADHD, anxiety, depression. There's a lot. There's a lot of things that could be going on alongside.
Yeah. And we have touched base on a lot of these subjects. So if, people would like any more further detail about it, please, reach out to us, comment, and we'll be happy to get that information to you.
Still, not everyone has the means or opportunity to get an official diagnosis. And so some people out there are getting self-diagnosing.
Yeah. So from one of the criterias I've got as in why is it considered a trend is the significant improvement on self-screening tools and processes. So that has really been, the kind of like the tool that has provided people to go down that avenue and, seek out a diagnosis.
Self-diagnosis is valid. And the worst thing that happens is someone self-diagnoses and is wrong. why does that matter to people? Why is that so infuriating to people? So they can't access most supports with a self-diagnosis, right? You need an official diagnosis to get any of the supports out there.
Mm-hmm.
But they could put in self-supports to help themselves.
Yes, that has been an increase too. So as a result of the screening tools and processes, has, provided the vehicle for self-diagnosis, people are implementing, strategies and for them to be able to cope, which is great because now they're being more mindful and have that sense of self-awareness in order to implement tools to be able to cope better in life and through their challenges, which is, I think, is great.
I was trying to think of the worst case scenario about someone being in social media and pretending to be autistic when they're not. I was trying to think of the worst possible scenario of the outcome of that particular situation. Like, what are they going to do? Are they influencing our vulnerable youth? Is that the problem? That people somehow think, oh, well, they're very famous and I don't want my kids thinking that they're autistic because they relate to what this person is saying. What do you think that is somehow compromising the mental health of our vulnerable youth? I don't think there are people out there who are going to say, I'm autistic, and suddenly that's a bad thing. Like, how is that bad?
The stigmatism around it has been removed, right, as a negative, which is huge, right? So, in going on what you're saying is, I don't think there is truly a deficit to, saying I'm autistic and self-diagnosed autistic, right? If that's what they relate to. I think where the potential damage is when they provide information that is false and, and glorify it to be something other than what it is, right? I think there's that fine line of, which needs to be, and if a person is doing the due diligence and doing their fact checks, they're going to be able to very quickly, sort out what is real and what is not.
I can't imagine that an autistic person is not going to seek out correct information.
Well, that depends upon their cognitive ability, whether they've got comorbidities such as a mild intellectual, so there are contributing factors that might inhibit that. But I think in general, for those level ones who are able to understand, the difference, I don't think it's going to impact.
So that brings me to people like celebrities. So autistic celebrities, when they have a platform that enables them to provide information and influence a large number of other people, they may choose to embrace the responsibility and be a role model and an advocate. But that's a lot of pressure. And I think that not everyone is able to handle that well.
I agree with you. Like, being a celebrity in this day and age, I wouldn't want it for all the tea in China, right? To live in a gilded cage. No, thank you. That is not for me. But I think nowadays that celebrities are held accountable for what information that they are presenting and on what platform, that they, I think for most part, do the due diligence and do the research well before presenting it on a social media platform.
I have no problem with celebrities getting diagnosed later and coming out and saying, I got a diagnosis, this is how I felt about it, talking about advocating for it, and just sharing that. I don't see why that's wrong. I don't think that's glorifying it.
No, it's not glorifying it. It is, it is presenting it in a factual manner, right? It is giving it the credit that it's due, right?
I think it helps to destigmatize it.
It does. It most certainly does help to destigmatize it, right? If a celebrity has it and can still function and can achieve this level of success, I think it's all plus, 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 plus.
And when when any celebrity is straight, like I understand that puts a lot of pressure on them to represent the autistic community. That is a choice that they make. And if they stumble or something happens that is frowned upon by the world, suddenly autism is tagged along with that. And I'm not criticizing people. I imagine that whatever they're going through, it must be so difficult, especially if you don't have the right supports in your life.
Yeah. And I think that goes for any type of diagnosis that a celebrity has, right? When something negative, falls upon, that aspect of it, I think it tags whatever that diagnosis is. And unfortunately, that is the reality of being a celebrity in this day and age. Like I said, wouldn't want it for all the tea in China.
Yeah, it's really easy for people to sit behind their computer screens and judge.
I agree with you.
But having everything you say and do be scrutinized by the world sounds absolutely horrific.
Yeah, and exhausting to me. All right.
So I didn't want to mention any celebrities by name because I think that's unfair. And I don't know what they have going on in their personal lives, right? I don't know what pressures they face. If I don't relate to an autistic celebrity or influencer, I just don't watch them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, that is... I hope people start to do more of that, right? Is have that conscience and self-awareness to say, hey, no, I don't relate to that. It doesn't go for me. I don't have to choose and follow in order to fit in. I hope people make choices for themselves based on what's best for them.
I think it's really easy for people to get on their keyboard and write nasty things. But if I don't identify with an autistic celebrity, that to me, that doesn't mean that I just discount their experience as an autistic person. That's theirs. It's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So just because I don't relate to it doesn't mean it's not valid.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on that one. Yeah. I think it goes across the board, right? If just because I don't, connect with that person on that celebrity on that level doesn't mean, I agree.
I also have this thing where I don't rank people. So I don't look at celebrities as being more than anybody else.
No, they are human. They are equal.
Yeah, they just happen to have a public profession. So I see a lot of them on TV or movies or wherever. But I don't think of them as more or better, or I don't get starstruck.
Yeah.
I just don't have it. So I can't really relate to people who, have posters on their wall or idolize or any. I just don't have that.
Yeah, I was never like that either. I never had posters of people on the wall. Yeah, just horses.
So I'm a little bit at a deficit here talking about celebrities because I can't relate to the bigness of what they mean in other people's lives.
Okay, that's great. All right, so what's next on yours?
That's the end of my list.
I think the last thing is the good thing about this is the demographic patterns have changed, right? In celebrities and the trends being on an upward climb, it has brought into view the demographic patterns that need to change. So I think that is an amazing aspect of this, going down this path and uncovering it.
I think that anytime you can bring more awareness and understanding and destigmatize autism, that's beneficial for the whole autistic community.
Yeah. So, so that was the last aspect on my criteria on what has created a trend in pushing autism as being trendy.
Yeah, it's not really trendy.
No, it's not. It's just that the awareness has increased significantly due to contributing factors of it that has deemed it a trend.
Yeah, I'm not faking it.
Yep. Okay.
I'm not attention seeking.
So what the connections that I have made, and I'd really like to discuss in our next podcast, is all of this awareness has really emphasized the importance of employment and employment opportunities for the autistic community. So I would really like to discuss that in our next podcast.
Sounds good.
Alrighty. Until then, Have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We appreciate that.
We'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. If you know someone who might find this episode helpful, feel free to share. Also, check out our website and socials linked in the description.